Hi, I'm here with Peter Lang, head coach of men's rugby at the University of Health Sciences and Pharmacy in St. Louis, Missouri. Peter, can you tell us a little bit about your background?
Certainly. So interestingly, my background is more from professional rugby. I've coached national teams with Scotland under 20s and Uganda women's national team. I've coached professionally with the Crusaders down in New Zealand and a couple of teams in Europe prior to coming to start this program here. So what we have in our program is a lot of the knowledge that I have of what it's like to be a professional athlete, and we bring that into our program.
And how long have you been at UHSP?
Let's see, I'm coming up for 4 years now. The program has only been operational. We've just finished our second year of operation. So obviously that first year was more getting the program on the map, a lot of groundwork. And then second and third years, we started our program and going to our third year now.
And what division do you play in?
So we play in the CRAA D1. We were previously the NCR and the National Collegiate Rugby. For students who don't understand that, there are two basic governing bodies. The NCR is an independent collegiate rugby system that came out of the small college and escrow organization, and then CRAA is the USA Rugby's college offering. So we have moved just recently from the NCR to the CRAA as we start our 15s program. We'll be playing in the Heart of America Division One conference.
So is this your first 15 season and you've been playing
That is,
sevens?
that is correct. We have been playing sevens for the last 2 years as we built this program, and we're really excited now to get our 15s program started, and that kind of necessitated a little bit the change to USA Rugby from NCR.
Great. Can you tell me a little bit about your international players and their role on the team?
Yeah, so we're much more focused domestically than some other programs, partially because of the degrees that we offer, but partially just because the way we're building it. So we don't have that many internationals, but I do try and bring international flair to it. So the couple of internationals we have are mostly from the islands. I lived out in the Pacific for a little bit, and so have strong connections with that. I also grew up in Africa, so I have strong connections there. So it's really important for me to bring in different coaches into our program and show the athletes that there are a whole load of different backgrounds that everybody comes from, but one commonality is the game of rugby. It doesn't change whether you're in the Pacific, you're in Europe, the game is still the same. So we even go a step further than that, and we try and travel internationally every year as well. For a lot of my players, that's their first time, sometimes leaving the country, sometimes it's the first time on an aeroplane. So it's really about expanding their horizons, but showing them that not to be scared of these different environments, but actually realize there's just that love of rugby no matter where you go in the world.
When we were speaking earlier, you mentioned something that I think is a bit unique, a bit special about your team, and that was the parental involvement. Could you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, parental involvement, as we were talking about earlier, is really key to me, and it's really important to not just have from the start, from the recruiting process, but all the way through. So we were talking about from the recruiting process, a student athlete is going to be much more focused on things that affect their life on a day-to-day basis, whereas parents might want to know different things like that the student might not think to ask about, like the accommodations or perhaps the degrees and where they lead in terms of life opportunities or financial questions and these kind of things. So I try and involve the parents straight away. Normally, our first recruiting call is with the recruit, and then we try and organize a video conference meeting with the parent, at least one parent involved. Sometimes I get amused because I can see that the student athlete is looking up beyond the camera to somebody in the room, and I'm always straight away like, wait, is there somebody else there? And they're like, yeah, mum's here. I'm like, bring her in. I want to meet her. And that then fosters through the relationship in our program. And so I have this excellent group of parents. Every single one of my parents has my personal cell phone. We talk, on a first name basis, and I believe our friends. They do anything to help support the program because they get that feedback of how it's going. It's not just they go to college and they don't hear from the kid until they come back with all their dirty laundry at the end of the semester. And so I have parents traveling all over the country. They come from Wisconsin, from Texas, Carolinas, to watch their sons play at our program, which is really important. But also they come through me of any questions they have about the college because I'm in the university. I can go find these answers for them much better than, they don't know who to ask about certain questions. I've got a question about housing. Who do I talk to? Like, talk to me. Just keep talking to me. I'll go find the answers and I'll get them to you. And I'll be that conduit. So you don't have to have like 10 people's contacts. You just have to have me. So I'm really lucky. I've got fantastic parents, but it's really important to keep them involved throughout that process, throughout the college experience.
I agree wholeheartedly. It's one of the things that I really try to impress upon them because it is a family decision.
Yes.
Speaking of the recruitment process, what do you look for in a top recruit?
Character. Over anything else, I look for character. It's one of the things I really strongly believe. One of my foundational principles is that great people make great rugby players, and great rugby players make great people. And as simple as that sounds, when it comes to a recruiting standpoint, as I tell my recruits, roughly speaking, most of the recruits are on roughly the same level rugby wise. When we're coming to recruiting, especially at the D1 level, we're all going after those really great rugby players. But when I'm recruiting, what I'm looking at is not what they are doing on the field. I've already seen that through video and through research. I know what they're doing on the field. What I'm looking at when I'm recruiting is what they're doing off the field, the unseen. Do they warm up with the rest of the team, or are they off doing their own individual thing? When the coach is talking, are they attentive, or are they looking around at the birds or something like that? If it's a practice, are they helping set up? After practice, are they doing extras? And I like to try and follow them around, not just the rugby practice, but a little bit around the school as well that they go to or something like that. So I can really get a gauge for that because I can develop anybody rugby wise to where I need them to be. And my job as a coach, I believe, is not to look at players and say, what are you bringing to my program that's going to make my program better? That's the wrong way of looking at it as a coach. The coach needs to focus on, and one of my first questions to my recruits is, what are your dreams and goals and your ambitions? And how can I help you achieve those? That's my job as a coach, to help you for your next step of your journey and prepare you for that. So it's really important when I'm recruiting that I'm not then bringing in recruits that I have to spend a lot of time, developing their characters. I need good characters. Oh, sorry. That then can go on and I can develop in the rugby sense.
What do you think is the work-life balance or the academic rugby balance of life at the University of Health Sciences and Pharmacy?
Great question. This is a tough academic university. The average incoming freshman's GPA is a 3.7. It's not easy to get into, although our acceptance rate are high because people are very focused about whether they want to apply here or not, being such a specialist school. But academics are really tough here, and it's the biggest challenge for the incoming freshman in his first semester is learning how to balance that. They've suddenly gone into an environment where it's not structured. Nobody's telling them where they need to be, when they need to be there. it's completely left up to themselves whether they go to class or don't go to class. And so we keep a very close eye academically on our students. Every week, we have 2 hours where we sit down on a Sunday and we study together. And during that time, we go over all their grades with my managers are students who have gone through the system and are in the professional student. They're pharmacy students, P1s, P2s. So I've done all those undergrad classes and they know them well because look, I'm not the brain box out here. And they really help them with how to manage that load, but also, subject specific things that they perhaps aren't understanding, how to learn to deal with the professors. It's changing that atmosphere of I'm a child and you're an adult to I'm an adult and you're an adult, and interacting with professors like that and teaching them that communication is very key. If they're struggling, go talk to your professor. When they come to me like, coach, yeah, I've got a problem with this. And like the first question I ask them, have you spoken to the professor yet? Well, no, coach. Okay, go speak to the professor. And then they start to find that these professors are just trying to help them. We've got a small university, so we've got great student to faculty ratios, and there really are personable people that we've got teaching our students here. So yeah, that first semester is all about learning that they really need to keep on top of their academics. And it's not just about, I've got free time to play video games till 3 o'clock in the morning, which is where they normally come in at. So yeah, we definitely keep an eye on that.
And what is your training regimen like?
So we do something rugby related every day of the week. It's again bringing that professional atmosphere in. It's a full load. So we're training Monday, Wednesdays, and Fridays. We're lifting Tuesdays and Thursdays. On Mondays, we have team meetings where we go over video. Tuesdays and Wednesdays, I have individual meetings with the players on what's called an IPP, an individual performance plan for the week. And that covers everything from tactical, technical, leadership, mental, nutrition and health. On a daily basis, I'm monitoring that kind of stuff as well. So it's pretty involved. Sundays, I already mentioned, is devoted a lot to studying. Saturdays is a rugby day for us, so that's when we play. And yeah, so that's the rugby schedules. I expect basically about 2 hours of work each day from the students on rugby as a minimum. So that on top of your studies is quite a lot, as I like to tell the parents and the incoming student athletes. That leaves just enough time to relax and have a bit of fun without too much time to get into trouble.
Absolutely. I think that's a good idea. So if somebody was interested in attending your university, what would you tell them about how scholarships work, both merit scholarships and rugby scholarships, and how that comes together?
Right. Yeah. So at UHSP here, we bundle both merit and athletic together into one scholarship. So the way it works is, depending on their GPA, gives me a starting point on a matrix, basically. So we start with that academics and find out where you start from, and then from there, I will look at videotape of at least a whole game. A lot of athletes send me highlight reels, and as I tell them, everybody looks great in highlight reels. That's what they're designed to do. So then we'll look at video of that player. We'll do some research, maybe talk to some coaches, and then based on that, we'll decide how much rugby we're going to put on top to make that entire scholarship. So they need to complete their application. And they need to have sent us video, or we've seen them play, in person. And from that, we build the scholarship. Scholarships range here from about $15,000 all the way through to like $30,000, with tuition being about $30,000 as well. You can get nearly your entire tuition. But as I always explain to my players who are coming in, that $30,000 scholarship, I haven't given out one of those yet, because academically, you need to be like 4.0 student, and athletically, you need to be an absolute stud. So it's very rare to get that amount, but I always try and leave them with a rough range based on what they say their GPA is, and preface that with, that's assuming this GPA, but when we get your official transcripts, we'll see, because students get confused about what's a cumulative, what's a non-cumulative, what's weighted, what's not weighted, and so yeah, I just give them a range, and then when we get all that data, we give them a final offer.
Great, that's really helpful. Thank you. With the move to CRAA and the move to adding 15s this year, I have a little bit of an idea. However, I'd like to hear from you what your goals are for this coming season.
Yeah, this coming season is, it's all part of a bigger plan. So when we started this program, I laid out a 7-year plan. And this season, starting the 15s, is about putting ourselves on the map. So our goal for this year is to a couple of upsets in the D1, but a couple of tough losses will happen as well. Anybody who's coming to our program needs to understand that they are part of the foundations that we're building. And that's a unique opportunity that they get to actually help build something from the ground up and build the ethos of what it is to be a rugby player in this program, build the traditions of what we aspire to in this program. So, it's a really great opportunity for them to help build it with us together. And as I said, we're looking to cause a little bit of upset in the 15s program. The 7s program being established longer. The plan for that is to now really start winning some championships. Last year we went to Tropical 7s, where we were the top single university program. The only programs above us were select sites who are pulling from all over the country, sometimes all over the world. But as a standalone university, we were the top university. That's remarkable in 2 years. So this year, our 7s program is going to be even stronger, and we're definitely looking to bring some hardware home. But in the 15s program, looking to establish that, get our name out there. And we love it when people come up to us and be like, "Who are you and where did you guys come from?" And we get that a lot.
Speaking of that, you have a very interesting mascot. Can you tell me what that is behind you on the wall?
Yeah, so that's Morty McPestle. And there's many versions of the story, but the story I like to believe is that he was a student who was experimenting in one of the labs, just kind of like Spider-Man, got his superpowers. Well, Morty McPestle was messing around. Something happened in the lab, and out came Morty McPestle. So he's not any, you can't say he's a griffin or he's a this or that. He is just like this university. He's a unique thing that can't be reckoned or described as something else. That's our university. We're a very unique university, highly specialized in the health sciences, and the pharmacy being our flagship program. Small university that really pushes the academics. I don't know if anybody's seen. We've known about this for a while, but Forbes suddenly picked up on this school as the #1 school in the country for return on investment, which is a really important point of data that we really try and explain, because most people don't understand, okay, what's return on investment? I mean, I hear it in business, but what's that mean in the academic spot? And what happened there is Georgetown University in Washington, D.C. did some research, not completely independent of us as an academic exercise. They looked at the data of graduates from all the universities in the country after 20, 30, and 40 years to find out how much money those student graduates were earning and how much student debt they managed to pay off and where they were financially. And they've done this, I think, for the last 10 years. And we've been number one for all that time. We are the number one university in the country, and there's a lot of great universities in this country. So that's amazing to think that our graduates are earning more money than any other graduates of any other universities, and are less in debt and better off financially than any other. And part of that is because we're health science related. That's a really well paid career path. Anything that you study here is going to lead to a really well paid job right from the go get. And plentiful abundance of availability of jobs as well. You know, we read a lot about graduates now not being able to find jobs. That's not true in the health sector. Location is really important. LinkedIn rates St. Louis as the number one city to start your career. And where we're at in our campus, we're a small university in a much larger medical campus. We're in the heart of Washington University's School of Medicine campus. And that campus has 4 hospitals on it. It's got all sorts of biotech companies on it as well. So, you know, these people are literally coming to our doorstep and picking recruits up before they graduate and getting them into their offices and their employment. So we're very lucky that, and then having all of that and being athletically focused, that's the trifecta of factors that allow us to be that number one for return on investment. So we're really lucky to have such great academics that really lead to great jobs, but also strong athletics.
How many undergrads are there at UHSP?
There's about 400 only. When I said we're a small university, I meant we're a small university. And so one of the interesting things is our professional to undergraduate student is skewed. We have a lot more professionals, so it's nearly, we have about 200 plus professional students as well. So the entire student body is about 600. Whereas normal institutions, the undergrad population is much, much larger. It's normally like 10 to 1, not 2 to 1. But, we have all the advantages of being a small university, great student faculty ratio. Everybody knows your name, but they don't just know your name. You're not a face in a sea of faces in a large lecture hall. So the professor knows your name. They know you're a rugby player. They know me, and they know I'm the rugby coach. There's nowhere to hide here. Okay, academically, there's nowhere to hide. You can't sit at the back of the classroom and fall asleep in your books and just disappear. So that's great. And people get to know their professors by first name, as I kind of already talked about. But then sometimes the concern is, well, small campus, probably not a lot going on. I was like, I really want that student life. Well, being part of this larger campus means that we have that. And so around our campus, there is a lot of, restaurants to eat at. We've got movie theaters in walkable distance. We've got 3 great grocery stores, from high end like Whole Foods through Aldi to like the lower end supermarkets. We've got all of those facilities, and we're really lucky with that. But then some people are like, oh, well, you're an inner city university, so it's kind of like the concrete jungle. What if I want to go for a nice run? Well, to the west side of our campus is Forest Park. Now, that's the largest municipal park in the country, bigger even than Central Park in New York. And in that, there's tons of things to do. There's the zoo, number one zoo in the country, free to go to, by the way. There's the Muni, which is a concert venue, free, has a lot of free concerts. There's 3 golf courses there. There's fishing pond. There's an ice rink. There's all that stuff, and running trails, obviously, that go like miles and miles and miles. So you got that greenery. And that also, incidentally, is where our rugby fields are. So we're very lucky to have 3 full-size, fully dedicated rugby fields. That's all they're there for. They're dedicated to rugby, full grass, full size. That's where we practice. That's where we play. That's literally 15 minutes walk from campus. a lot of these campuses, you're going to have to walk further than that just to get to the rugby fields in the campus. So we're really, really lucky. And that's where, from a recruiting standpoint, the key thing for us is come and visit. Okay. We can describe it all we want, but once we come and visit, we have a very high likelihood that students will want to go here because it is such a great campus. The buildings are all new, they're less than 10 years old. It's in this like vibrant medical community with professionals, doctors, nurses, students, everybody mixing together. But then we've got these great facilities around us as well.
Great. I've got
We
one
should
more.
get you down here for a visit.
I'm sorry, say that again.
I said we should get you down here for a visit.
I would love that. One last question for you.
Yeah.
If you were, as you are, talking to teenagers who have maybe 2 years, a year, 6 months left until they really begin in earnest their recruitment journey, their scholarship journey, their rugby journey in the US, what bit of advice would you give to them as players and students who are about to embark on this experience?
Yeah, you've hit on a really key point there. So you're kind of talking about maybe those juniors, rising seniors, those kind of, yeah. One of the problems, not problems, but one of the situations that rugby encounters that other sports don't encounter is that the coaches quite often at the high school level are not really cognizant of what opportunities are available for rugby players at the university level. It's traditionally grown from club where it's like, well, you just go to university and you find a club there and you join the club. The landscape is changing as the rugby landscape changes as well. And so more and more opportunities are coming to get rugby scholarships. And so one of the best pieces of advice I would say is don't rely on anybody else apart from yourself for this. Do your own research. Really ascertain what you want from a program. So a lot of people in that environment are more concerned about like, well, what am I going to study? I don't know what I want to be. And of course, you don't know what you want to be at that. I didn't know what I wanted to be at that age, but I know what I liked and I know what I didn't like. So if I'm coming from a small rural community, maybe I want to replicate that, but maybe I want something different because I've grown up with that and I want to experience something different. So that's one of the best advice I would give is like, think about what you're going to spend at least 4 years here. Think about what you want in terms of your living situation, because as sad as it is, the reality is, and this is my story, so that's why I'm passionate about it, this rugby dream can disappear like that. Through injury, through no fault of anybody's, it can be gone. And you can find yourself in an environment where you're like, well, I was only here for the rugby. Now I don't have the rugby. I don't really like this environment. That's a dangerous place to be in. So make sure you're in an environment that you'd be happy even if you didn't have the rugby.
So to pass the broken leg test, if you can't play,
Yes.
do you still want to be there? If the coach that you get along with really well isn't there, do you still want to be there?
Yeah.
Is it where you feel at home?
Yes. Yeah. We talk a lot about home, a lot about family here. And that's definitely the key, I would say, is go to different universities, even in your junior year, just to get a feel for, do I like this or do I like this? And help understand, what you do want and what you don't want. And then that can narrow down your choices to university. So that would be my biggest key advice. And then the other thing is video. Okay. Make sure you've got video of you playing. Not highlight clips, but actual video. Even if it's we're used to watching, mum's camera on the sideline where it's all fine until suddenly they're going to score a try and it's all like, yeah, 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 and we're like, oh, I feel a bit seasick now, but yeah, I get it. Even that is fine. It's better than not having any video. Without any video, we can't make a decision. So get video. Video is getting better at the high school level, but more and more video. So those would be my two bits of advice would be ascertain the kind of place you want to live in the next 4 years, and make sure you've got video that coaches can look at to make a really good decision. A highlight reel is not going to cut it. Okay, they're going to want to look at a whole game.
That's really helpful. Thank you very much. And thank you for sharing your thoughts today and introducing us a little bit more to UHSP. And I always find that such a mouthful. The University of Health Sciences and Pharmacy. And I think you've really hit the nail on the head. For someone who's interested in a career in health sciences, there it is in the name. It's what it says on the tin, and it's a great opportunity. And I would think also that if you're a forward who is interested in health sciences, that giving you an email or a call would probably be a good idea, because it sounds like if you're coming up with starting the 15s program, that there's a real opportunity there to be part of that foundation in particular for forwards.
No, I would unfortunately disagree with you on that.
Oh, okay.
Forwards and backs alike. We've got a good pack coming in.
Oh, great.
Yeah, recruiting's been good. Um,
Wonderful.
so we're not just looking at forwards, looking at forwards and backs alike, but I'm looking for those good people. If you think that you might want a good career at the end of your rugby days, and you think you're a really great person, reach out to me. One of the things I do for my recruits, and I will do it for anybody, is I'm I'm not smart enough to be anything apart from like transparent. So my job is to help you a little bit, much as you're doing, navigate the college rugby scene. So I'm okay if you come to me eventually and say, look, coach, I don't think this one's for me, but I'm thinking about going to this program. I will give you my honest opinion. It won't be spewed about like, this is why it's different from us. I'll be like, yeah, that's a great program. You're going to do that. UHSP is not for everybody, and that's okay. And there's enough players out there that we don't have to hoard them all to ourselves. So I really like to help those students along the way of introducing them to, and I do this, when students come to visit us, I sometimes introduce them to other programs as well, because I think that's a better fit for them, or just to give them another understanding of a different program and stuff like that. So I will do that with anybody who reaches out to me. I will give you advice about any program you're looking at for free.
That's really great. And one of the things I've noticed in talking to coaches around the country and people who are involved in rugby in the US is that with rugby being a developing sport, there's a real shared passion in doing whatever to make rugby better, to help rugby grow, and to help the kids that are part of that program. So it's really refreshing to hear that you're in that same camp, and anything that makes rugby better makes everybody else better along the way.
I couldn't have put it better myself.
Well, thank you so much for your time today, and I really appreciate it, and I look forward to seeing you soon.
Yeah, lovely to meet you. And like I said, if you ever get an opportunity to come to St. Louis, please come visit us. I'd love to host you.
Thank you very much.